Yeah.
There's easy grips.
Yeah.
I haven't had to use them yet, but excellent feature.
Of course, the old Hobie cats, they had you put a strap around the bottom basically to pull the thing right side up. My neighbor had a Hobie, and at one point I managed to drive the mast into the bottom of the lake. That wasn't so much fun. I mean, you know, it's just a matter of getting the wind in the right place to help you get back up. But yeah.
And who doesn't have command of the wind after all? You know?
Yeah, right. Well, and the lake is so shallow, it's easy to get into positions like that.
Wait, Cliff, you got your head out of the sewer. What happened?
You're out. I don't know what happened. My background options deleted, so I had to pull a new one. I don't know where they went. I think we had like a computer update, and then just like wiped it. So my head's out of the gutter.
It looks nice.
Well,
thank you.
I noticed Zoom changed their settings, their sound settings, which I'm not totally complaining about, but I think it's part of the Zoom update. Good morning, everybody. I didn't think we'd be talking about breaking wind this early in the morning, but...
Now wait a minute.
Oh, I'm glad I missed that part.
We'll be Breaking Bad later.
We started out talking about bike riding and sailing, and of course enjoying the environment is what it's all about. Oh, and air quality.
Yeah,
so we covered a lot of ground already. What else would you like to talk about?
I'm done. I'm exhausted, man.
So we're done. I can move on.
Bill and I have connections in California one way or another. So I was pointing out that I have a sister in Seattle and a sister in San Francisco. And instead of talking about temperature or rain or whatever it is, they're talking about, you know, now they're sort of bouncing around information. They're comparing notes on, you know, particulates in the atmosphere. It's rough. And yeah, the sun rose pretty orange today over here.
Mm-hmm. And it looked exactly the same when it was setting last night too.
Right. My wife loves taking pictures, and she was comparing pictures she's taken of the moonrise and of the sunrise, and they look sort of the same.
So it's officially moved over here, because the last thing I heard, they said that it hadn't been able to cross the Rockies, or it was struggling to cross the Rockies.
Oh no, they showed the plume extending to Michigan.
Okay. I just haven't seen it yet. Okay.
I read this morning Europe.
Oh, it has gone? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, when fires that big basically make their own weather. I mean,
yeah,
it's pretty disturbing.
Yeah.
I wonder if we should rethink our tree planting strategies.
Yeah,
I'm just kidding.
Flammability concerns.
Good.
Well, I know there's a lot of fun stuff going on right now. We got big events planned at the end of the month. The tree planting, October 3rd. Things are coming together for that. Sarah sent out a copy of the mind map, which she's been working on, which has been
sent out how?
I don't know if she sent it to everybody. She just, I think
you and then you sent it out.
It was attached to your link for this week.
There it is.
Yeah.
Obviously, this is Sarah's interpretation, but the idea of making mind maps it's kind of an interesting educational experience, and I'm sure we would all make different ones. But it's a nice. I don't know if you want to bring it up, or I can bring it up on the screen. But what else is on people's minds that they want to talk about today?
I'm just impressed that some people can find organization in their minds. I would love to know how to do that.
It's a work in progress. At least you admit that you're challenged by it, where everyone else pretends that they have got it all figured out.
Wow, this is beautiful. All these links. Thank you, Sarah.
Sure.
All right. Well, I encountered a little news item shared with me from a biochemist friend, and I haven't actually read it yet, but she pointed out to me that she had run across an article about, I guess these are wax worms. They're basically sort of mealworms there have always been wax worms. Wax worms eat plant waxes, and they can metabolize them. Turns out plant waxes are close enough to polyethylene that these things have made the jump, and they've learned how to eat, and I really mean eat, not just chew up polyethylene and metabolize. That'll be an interesting direction for at least plastics recycling. Maybe we'll be able to use sort of composting type strategies to break down at least polyethylene. Now, of course, polyethylene is one of the most recyclable plastics of all. So what we really want is the ones that know how to break down the tougher plastics. On the other hand, you got to ask yourself, how broadly do you want small organisms to learn how to do these things? Because, for instance, I don't particularly want anybody eating the PVC pipes under my house or under the street or wherever they are. And I also don't particularly want anybody eating the insulation off the wires in the walls of my house. So, yeah, it's an interesting.
So they have to be trained?
Well, I don't think so. I think they just have found the metabolic wherewithal to bite into this stuff. I mean, a big problem with polyethylene or any of these plastics that's just a physical characteristic that makes it hard to digest is that they're essentially waterproof. And normally, if you want to digest something, the first thing you have to be able to do is wet it. And so it's just hard to get any kind of enzymes into a place where they can chew on it, so to speak. That's at the
So then
level.
what does it mean for their waste? Like after they've eaten it, and what's their waste? Is their waste biodegradable after they've eaten it?
Their waste is more or less normal worm poop, whatever that may be.
Okay.
But polyethylene is basically solid gasoline. Nature is very good at finding energy sources. Nature knows a lot of what we think of as sort of rusting, that is the corrosion of metals. Humans are pretty much the only source of metallic metal in the world, right? Organisms and other organisms and plant life, any of that stuff, nothing makes metal as such. It's all in the form of ores, oxides, and other salts of some sort. So to make actual metallic metal, this whole smelting process is a fairly elaborate thing, but those metals represent energy sources, and a fair amount of corrosion is biocorrosion. It's mediated by organisms that have learned how to harness the energy that they can pull out of the oxidation process of metals. That's a whole other subject. But this is analogous to that. Polyethylene is basically gasoline. If you can harness its oxidation, you can use the energy to power your metabolism. It's like eating fat, basically.
So when you say it's that, whatever that P word for the plastic, is that you're saying is that like what number 1 and 2 plastics, or is that in all of the numbers, or how? Because I know they're all different kinds of plastics. So what does that mean? Does it mean that it could possibly affect all numbers, or is it just going to affect a certain number?
I think polyethylene is number 1. I can't remember the numbers, unfortunately.
2, I believe.
Is it 2? Okay. What's 1? PET?
I should know this by heart, but
I should too.
And what did you say the worm was called?
Well, I'm not sure what these worms are called, but classically, the kinds of worms called wax worms are things that eat compounds that are kind of like polyethylene that nature makes. I mean, waxes, we think of wax as so actually most of the candles, for example, that you might buy in a candle store are probably made with paraffin, which is probably wax from hydrocarbon, I mean, basically from petroleum, but biological waxes are made by various plants, and like bowling alley wax is carnauba wax. What is that? It's some bean or something that they extract the wax from. Anyway, there are organisms that have always been able to break that down, and so it's not that huge a step to go from that to the synthetic materials.
Are these related to the, you're talking about worms, that when you inoculate a porous pavement, you do that with bacteria that can digest the hydrocarbons.
Well, that would be, yeah, those are single cell things. The worms are actually, yeah, I mean, and apparently they're basically mealworms. The, little 1-inch worms that are larvae of some beetle. Anyway, I was trying to look up the recycling numbers, but I can't.
I threw it up on the screen there.
Oh, there you go. Okay, yeah. So HDPE stands for high density polyethylene. Oh, there it is. And 4, I see 2 and 4 are the polyethylenes. I'm guessing it would be the LDPE that would be the easiest thing for them to digest. Anyway, it's just a minor little factoid that I found interesting. I'm teaching a green chemistry class this semester.
We can tell.
It's just one meeting a week, but I do plan to incorporate this particular piece of information and
Did anyone
scholarly about it.
Did anyone hear the story on NPR on the 11th about the plastic numbers and the kind of the scam that big oil basically promoting the recyclability of plastic and
No.
sort of the confusion? I can share a link to it, but the idea that the numbers gave the impression that it was recyclable, and really they knew that it was not easily recyclable.
Right,
but
only a few of them are easily recyclable.
It's a lot bigger story than that, but I'm just summing it up. It's
Well, and the fact that they put 7 on there and 7's not recyclable, it's trash, but they still put it on there. It's like, I don't get it. Okay. September 11th it was on?
yeah, I'll share a link to the story in the chat in a couple seconds here if I can find it.
Okay.
Oh, that would be great.
But we've talked a lot about plastic over these weeks, and interesting to have a chemist on the conversation. It's
Yeah.
a totally different level of organization,
Disorganization.
microbial.
No, but
That's cool.
what Bill said is exactly right. Right, you have to get the right organisms to break down. I mean, small hydrocarbons. Of course, hydrocarbons have been oozing out of the ground for years and years. So there are plenty of organisms that know how to break down smaller molecular materials. But things like plastic are harder to get at, so to speak, just because they're that much less soluble.
Yeah.
So what else is on your minds, folks?
I heard part of the township board meeting last night, and I believe it was in the manager's budget presentation. There was a considerable discussion of buying more solar panels, and I wasn't able to give it my full attention. I was wondering if somebody is following that more closely and could tell me what I missed.
There was some discussion about it, but I can't remember. The one thing that I didn't get from that is where they're planning to erect these solar panels. But I guess it was in the coming up budget, the budget for 2021, that they intend to put more panels up somewhere. I don't know if they said where. I didn't get that from it.
I'll have to check with Derek on that. I was not part of the meeting. I know the energy team has been talking about next year looking at power purchase agreement, which is basically a way to get a lot of solar without a lot of upfront capital. In those conversations and talking with contractors that offer that, sometimes there is upfront money that might pay for things like parking structures or carports. So you would add $1 per kilowatt or something to the cost, because you're getting the added benefit of a carport in addition to the solar, similar to what they've done at MSU. So I like the idea of supplementing a power purchase agreement, which would be basically paying for the solar through your energy bills over time, over a 20-year period or whatever the agreement is. And so instead of a 40 kilowatts next year, we might be able to do 400 kilowatts, for example, which would be satisfy our goal of 100% renewables, assuming that we achieve our other goals of conservation, energy efficiency. Anyway, that's just sort of a long story short. I don't know if that made sense to anybody, but.
As in the township would be running on 100%? As in the township offices kind of thing?
Yeah, it's a little complicated because we're depending on the utility contribution. Consumers is planning on getting a portion of their energy from solar. So it's a bit of a, if there's any mathematicians in the house, we've looked at providing, the utility would provide a third, we would provide a third, and energy efficiency would provide a third of our current electrical demand. We're not including natural gas in that, but we're looking at 100% solar electricity. And again, we're not going to be totally disconnected from the power grid, but we're looking at providing, I forget what it is, 600 kilowatts worth of electricity through solar here at the township.
Have they figured out the numbers of how much they think they'll save money-wise by doing that?
It depends on, not exactly for the entire system, but that, again, that's just a math calculation. And again, those solar panels would be an investment that would be paid for over a period of years.
Yeah.
The solar panels look like they're going to pay for themselves. And I think it was like 10 to 12 years. And for like a $50,000 system, so that if that gives you a rough idea of how many dollars per year.
We have, I know some places they have essentially websites that allow you to monitor the output of an array. I've forgotten. I thought we had a link for the townships one someplace. Am I just making things up there?
No, we do. I can bring it up.
Because often those also include sort of the summary of whatever year to date or that kind of thing, production. The little news item from 2018, I'm just looking at it right now. It says it was going to be a 20 kilowatt solar array, and it was they were saying it was going to the total cost of the system was $50,000, and that over 25 years it was projected to save $143,000. Those are probably optimistic numbers, but who knows?
Hopefully this is loading up here. We're doing some remodeling on our building, and I was a little concerned that there may have been some disruption of our electricity. communication with our solar panels, but it looked like it was working yesterday, so that was encouraging.
Oh, there you go. Oh, that's cool. I see. So it's not the township itself. It's the Solar Edges. I see. Okay.
What did you say? Not the township itself, but what?
Well, look at the address in the in the little address box. It's not hosted at the township itself. Monitoringpublic.solaredge.com. Blah blah blah.
This is taking it right off the inverter from our solar panel system out here at the township. There's another one for the Nature Center, which is not currently functioning, but yeah, this is the type of information that inverter provides. And I'll send the link to. It's a little bit less complicated than the one you see in the URL there, if you'd like to take a look at it.
Thank you.
And say again, what percentage of the township's consumption you think that represents?
This represents about 8% of the electricity used in this building. This is our 20 kW system. And I misspoke earlier. The 20 kilowatt system was about a $50,000 investment, not 40. We're hoping to do 40 this year for about $100,000. That construction is gonna start in the next, hopefully, couple of weeks at the
And
farmers. Go ahead.
Is this the one that's in front of the building?
Yeah.
Okay.
So under full sun, it produces about 20 kilowatts of power. Over the course of the day, that might be 80. I don't know how much in a day, how many kilowatt hours. If you produce 20 kilowatts over an hour, that's 20 kilowatt hours. So we might get 60 to 80 kilowatt hours in a certain day on a sunny day.
And then the new one is going in by the farmer's market, you said?
There's a small one at the farmer's market. And then there is a larger one, actually closer to 40 or 36 or 37 kilowatts on the South Fire Station over on Okemos Road. I'll put the link.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Is the farmer's market, is that being was that land purchased, or was that already township land, or was it purchased from the mall owner, or are they renting that space? So are they paying by putting that on the solar panel on that land? Does that mean it's owned by the township still, right?
Yeah, there was some kind of land swap, and I don't know, maybe somebody else knows what happened.
Okay.
Bill?
Yeah, I don't remember the details, but I was recently looking at the parcel database and it confirmed that the township is the owner of that patch where,
Okay.
where the market is being built. And I don't remember what the negotiation was that resulted in that, but it had to go to the mall's corporate office, and it took quite a while, but it succeeded, which is a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
There's certainly a lot of pavement there that could be,
Right.
we could put
But
carports.
the parking is still owned by the mall then?
Yes. And one of the things that I learned in looking at that database is that I had naively believed that the entire mall property was owned by the mall company. And at least according to the township's parcel database, Macy's owns its own property, and Yonkers owns its own property, while the mall owns the bulk of it.
Wow.
And it looks to me, I didn't do a close examination, but it looks to me like all the parking is owned by the mall company, whereas the footprint of a couple of anchor stores they own themselves.
That's really it seems kind of interesting. I used to work for a mall company called Todman over in Bloomfield Hills, and I mean, they all owned every single ounce of the land and the building, so that's an interesting structure.
The other thing that's come up with regard to that mall parking lot is in the discussion around the proposed development at Hannah Farms at the end of Hannah Boulevard. The point has been made that the runoff from that mall parking lot reaches the Red Cedar River right about at Park Lake Road. So the Hannah Plaza itself is one of the larger impervious surface areas, contiguous impervious surface areas in the township. Immediately to the west of that, and then the other major impervious surface is the Meridian Mall parking lot, and that also drains to the Red Cedar at roughly the same confluence point where the CN tracks cross the river down at the end of Don Avenue. And so by accident, by design, by historical, I don't know, the bulk of our impervious surfaces is reaching the river in roughly the same location. And so that's really complicated matters as the neighborhoods trying to understand the potential impacts of the new development, try to assign responsibility for past flooding on individual land use changes when you've got so many different factors all delivering water to the same place at the same time. And I guess my mind immediately turns to what's going on in Frandor Mall with the redesign of that stormwater system as part of the Red Cedar project. And if the drain commissioner is successful in redesigning, was that the Montgomery drain? If that succeeds and it's seen as a success, it kind of raises the question, could we one day envision a new way to get water off of the mall parking lot? Or keep it, or at least deal with the water that hits the Meridian Mall parking lot. And it may be premature, but if it seems like an awfully big project that is going to take some time to work out. Especially as we see the mall transform itself, as all malls are transforming themselves.
It would be interesting to look at the water patterns. I know that there's been some significant, the rain gardens by the new market on the green and that sort of drainage pond across the street. There's been some major sewer piping going in there. I'm not exactly sure what it all means, but not sure the other side of the mall drains to the same direction, but maybe Cliff knows more or others know more about that.
I don't know the specifics there. I have no idea about where that goes. Trying to think. I could just ask Giannis, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Find out. The drain commissioner's office has schematics of all the county drains on its website. They're a little clumsy because they come in PDFs, these huge PDFs in tiles. So it's a little bit clumsy to get at, and then trying to read them is a learned art.
Mm-hmm. It reminds me that we pump all of our sewage uphill to East Lansing as well. Talking about moving water around, certainly a big part of our expenses here in Meridian. But I love the idea of keeping more of that water, that stormwater, and doing something like Montgomery Drain Project.
I remember being told that the water treatment facility is the township's single largest electricity consumer. because they're pumping water and running their machinery all day long, all 24/7.
Mhm.
You mean the East Lansing one? The
Meridian East Lansing facility.
yeah, right. And it's funny because they've also commented that the energy content of the material they're breaking down is actually greater than the energy that they use. It's just that, you know, you need to be able to harness it. You basically need an anaerobic digester or something like that to extract that energy content. Instead, they're just, you know, it's basically going to the microbes.
Well,
They
you're
had a
talking
grant
about-
for that.
What's that?
They I don't know if it's live yet, but East Lansing's wastewater treatment plant, they had funding and we're building a digester. I forget the stats, but it was gonna cover like a pretty good portion of their like daily energy. It was gonna save them. It was like a pretty obscene amount of money. Forget what it was. It was a couple years ago, and when they came and talked to our environmental commission about it. But yeah, I don't know if that's live yet. Leroy, do you know? We haven't met as the environmental commission. We've only met once since February, so I'm kind of like
Yeah,
not
that would be
familiar with
great.
the goings on in the city as normal.
I know there's been a lot of renovation of the sewage treatment plant, and that a methane digester was part of that, but I don't know if it's complete or not. But it'd be fun to learn more about that.
Is that the one that's on Hazlitt Road or whatever?
No, that's the one off of Trowbridge.
Oh, I don't know that one.
It's
Okay.
So, yeah, it's west of the university. If you
Oh,
go down the river trail and the wind is in the wrong direction, you know it's there, whether or not you actually
yeah.
witness it.
Okay.
There's the
think I know
groundwater treatment plant, the Elmswa, East Lansing Meridian Water and Sewer Authority, that is responsible for treating the water that's pumped out of the aquifer for drinking water, and to provide East Lansing and Meridian most
That's
of
the
our
one that I
water.
was referring
that's
to as the main electricity conserver.
What is?
That water treatment facility that Leroy's talking about is the one that I was thinking of, Clyde Duggan's operation.
Oh, I thought it was the actual water treatment plant because, yeah, they're running the wells there and they're doing a certain amount of moving the water around for the softening operation they have. But I'd be surprised. At least that water is sort of a uniform thing. Oh, that's interesting. Because with the wastewater treatment, they're bubbling air through it. There are a lot of steps in the treatment process. There are several steps in the supply treatment process too, but I would have expected it to be cheaper, but maybe that's wrong.
Well, I think the statistic I heard was within Meridian Township, right? The single biggest consumer is that
Is that plant?
water treatment facility, whereas I guess the sewer plant is in East Lansing. So
Okay.
it could be just there had also been at least an initial discussion of putting some photovoltaics at the water treatment facility, and I don't know whether that's still being talked about or not.
I believe it is. I know the challenge is that that's kind of a separate organization. The Elmswa is a partnership with East Lansing, and it's sort of run as a separate organization. So that's really a decision of Elmswa if they wanted to do that. Would not necessarily directly affect Meridian's electricity bill, although it might eventually affect the rates that we pay into the Elmswa budget. But that's still live. We sort of put it in Clyde's court. And then the focus of the energy team has been more on township operations. Another thing you mentioned, Bill, is a large portion of our electricity budget is pump stations that pump the sewage primarily, but also pump fresh water, but pump sewage to the East Lansing wastewater treatment plant. So I think that's about a third, as I recall, or at least a quarter of our electricity budget is just running those pumps 24/7.
So you're just saying the pumps that send it over there, that not the ones on the actual treatment site. Is that what you mean?
Right. Just pumping that water uphill to East Lansing Water Treatment Plant.
Sure.
Where are those pumps? Are those
All
they
over the
all
place.
underground? Are they all there? Are they underground, or do you see them somewhere?
You can see them. For instance, where Hamilton meets Grand River at the cemetery. Nakoma Playmakers.
Uh-huh.
Just at the east end of the cemetery is one of the most visible pump stations.
Okay.
It sits right underneath that big billboard, just as Hamilton goes off the edge there.
Okay. Thank you.
And you can also see the well pumps. There are various of them scattered around. I think there's one off Park Lake. And then if you're going down the interurban, there's a little sort of mode cut where if you go off the side a few hundred yards, a couple pumps are there, et cetera. They're spread around.
Another big one is at the Nancy Moore Park, kind of towards the where the trail connects with Gaylord C. Smith Drive.
Mm-hmm.
You can see and smell a little pump station there. But it's one of the biggest ones in the township, next to the one that Bill mentioned.
Right.
Anyway, this is all fascinating stuff that most people really don't understand very well. Stormwater, fresh water, sewage water. Part of that mind map as it expands, right, Sarah?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's one of the things I enjoy about working with freshmen is just saying, when you flush the toilet, it doesn't just go away. Away is somewhere. and there's a lot of infrastructure that makes both away and the supply side, work for you. So you don't have to think about it. But the problem is we're in the habit of not thinking about it.
Yeah.
And then you say, well, wow, this is our largest power investment. That's saying something. And every kilowatt hour is associated with, some number of pounds of carbon dioxide emissions, et cetera, et cetera. So you sort of, if you start linking those ideas, it does alter people's perception of their own actions.
Yeah.
I took them to the sewage treatment plant one time, and even the water that's about to be discharged back into the Red Cedar, it's got a bunch of suds in it. And I just said, okay, so what does it say on your shampoo bottle? Lather, rinse, repeat. Think about that twice. Soap is pollution too.
Is that why there's foam on the beach at Lake Lansing Park South?
I don't know about that. I don't know what specifically is responsible for that foam. I mean, there's biological stuff that can, lead to foaming too, but I don't know specifically. But there's also PFAS. PFAS in some contexts is responsible for significant foaming. So I don't know specifically about Lake Lansing's foam.
Well, the
Well,
wind
honestly,
was
though-
coming from your house, so I figure it came off of your property.
Yeah, that's right. I'm constantly out there washing the edge of the lake.
This also all helps understand the importance of green infrastructure, which, of course, Cliff, we're hoping to review some of Cliff's recommendations for changes to our code of ordinances, but for our next environmental commission meeting. And sort of, if you don't understand water, where it goes and things like that, well, this conversation informs the whole discussion about green infrastructure. And so it's all related. And I think that's part of the point of the environmental understanding, is that we're all part of the environment and everything is connected. But I hope to get that out to folks so we can sort of meaningfully look through some of Cliff's recommendations of how we can include green infrastructure in our codes and provide some opportunities to do more of it in painless ways.
Was there any more discussion at that meeting after I signed out? Or has anything else been discussed with that at all?
I think all heads were nodding. For others that might recall exactly, I think the intention was to review your recommendations and talk about them more at the next meeting. Not to drag you into another meeting, Cliff, but if you have any thoughts of how we can best do that, I know folks are eagerly looking forward to their next email from me, especially Bill. But that'll be one of the juicier ones that I send out in the next week or so. I've just been a little overwhelmed with the events coming up in the end of the month.
Like I said in the meeting, it's a matter of figuring out the priorities of the township and then picking, a few things and running with it. Like tackling every not perfect scenario is not realistic. But I think those higher impact ones that I suggested, like just language, defining green infrastructure, that should be easy. Enough to get through. It's not anything that changes your, doesn't really change the code necessarily. I mean, actually, you're adding things to it, but, nothing groundbreaking. But then like the landscaping stuff would be where I would focus my energies. You don't want to have to create some new, bureaucracy or new sort of review system. I think as long as you take down any tape and make it easier for, a developer to navigate the drain office's requirements and then your requirements, while trying to achieve township goals, and that's the easiest method.
Can you repeat that
That's
last?
where I focus my energy.
Can you repeat your last sentence about negotiating the drain office? Sorry, I missed that.
I like with the landscaping requirements, if you're a developer who's navigating the design requirements for the drain office, and then you're also having to navigate the landscaping requirements of the township, by removing those barriers and just like, allowing them to adjust their landscape design as long as it's in the service of the stormwater goals and, regulatory side of design at the drain office, then, you're tearing down tape versus creating these new, steps and loops for someone to jump through. So it not only is that easy language addition to the code, more than you're not adding any legwork for a developer. So it's kind of a win-win, I think. And it's not like, hey, we're just going to remove our authority and, you do what you want. It's like, no, if you're, pursuing these specific goals for, stormwater infiltration, we'll work with you on your design so you're not having to do both. Both being your volume and quality stormwater control, design for the drain office, and then your landscape design for the township. But that's where I think you get most bang for your buck, and it'd be the easiest.
I know one bottleneck is going to be, getting the attention of our planning department. And I was excited to hear about your regional, maybe a regional template that we could use. It will be developed partly from this process. But I was also really, I think we're all encouraged by the fact that we have a board of trustees that's very supportive. If we can come up with some clear suggestions, not to just dump onto our planners, but to suggest to the township, I think we'd get they would support it, and they're looking for that guidance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would underline that the board was elated to pass the PFAS ordinance. They couldn't say enough good things about the Environmental Commission. I'm so delighted I am no longer chair of the Environmental Commission because it's now being actually very productive and constructive and getting stuff done. But
PAH.
PAA, yeah.
PAH, sorry.
that, Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah.
It's a good moment. There's momentum there.
Can you tell me what that means? They passed the what?
Well, don't ask me.
No,
Coal
no.
tar, steel coat ban. coal tar.
Yeah.
Oh,
Like for,
yes, the what was in the Green Gazette. Okay, I understand now. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
what does it stand for? Polyacrylic aromatic?
Polyaromatic hydrocarbons, PAHs, yeah. Or more broadly, polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, right? These are the category of molecules that are in, for example, that we think of as giving people lung cancer when they smoke. When we breathe them in, the biochemistry that organisms use to try to detoxify them actually makes them more of a problem, and they end up modifying DNA and starting cancer.
Wow.
That's why they're a concern.
What did you call that again? Polyaromatic?
Polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons. But if you write in PAH is you'll get a gazillion hits.
I'm kind of jotting down words here. Was the last time we met, there was some discussion about interns and trying to raise some interest in younger people. And it sounds like there's some of that going on, but one of the things that was mentioned was maybe some music involved in that, which is something that I'm involved in. So I'm writing down words that might fit into a rap or some kind of a musical presentation. And I would like more suggestions. I was thinking about this morning and thinking about the planet and Gaia and other words. And I don't know if you can fit polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons into a song, but it's got possibilities because raps are crazy these days. And who knows, maybe there'd be a chorus of something along that line. The other thing too that I wanted to ask Leroy is where you found, this was just at the recycling site where you found the different categories of plastics, because I was writing those down, oxidation, polyethylene, polyvinyl. There were 2 or 3 others I thought that might be interesting to sort of incorporate into some rhythmic pattern, with a goofy little melody line that might get some people's attention. I'm thinking about this more for young people, but who knows? There are older people that listen to these things too, like myself.
That is so awesome. I can't even stand it.
Well,
That's
if
so
you've
cool.
got seriously things that you're working on, even though, I didn't think about polyethylene or any of this before I've been sitting and listening to this very technical conversation, but those things might be kind of entertaining and interesting in some kind of a musical format. But if you've got any ideas, just words. One of the things that I had written down here was, let me see, plastic, and then elastic and drastic, and some of the things that kind of would rhyme in a little, 4-measure rap thing that might go somewhere. I don't know where. But think about that, and if you got any suggestions, do let me know, maybe just through Leroy, or my email address is heronpro@comcast.net, which is the studio. So that was to lighten the load a little bit. You guys have been pretty technical here. I just thought, maybe we could bring it down to my level.
Well, if you want monosyllabic, coal tar works. And if you want polysyllabic, yeah, as you said, polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons works pretty well.
Yeah, that's a fun one to work with, I think.
And so does carcinogenic.
Oh boy, there's a heavy hitter right there.
But, of course, depending on who you want to blame, if it's your asphalt that you're worried about, yeah, asphalt is sort of the relatively positive alternative compared to coal tar. That's the essential content of that resolution that they passed. Or not resolution, but whatever.
I'm going to digest this a little bit, as we talked about earlier, but and probably want to get back to clarify some things the next time we get together. And it's going to take a while to even formulate some basis for this, but I'll probably be bouncing things off Leroy too, and see if I can get some musical input from him as well. To see if we can come up with something that maybe is something that can go to people in high schools or young people in colleges, that they might smile at, or maybe even pick up some small grain of information from, you know.
Now we need a dancer who can dance to it on TikTok, and then that would go big.
We're
Boy, yeah, I don't know if we're gonna
counting on
have
you,
TikTok
Sarah.
in the next 3 weeks here.
What?
TikTok might be gone in the next couple of weeks if Trump has his way, you know.
Yeah.
So,
There you go.
but there'll be something that replaces it. So your suggestion is a good one. Something on a TikTok format.
Hmm.
Well, it goes all the way back to Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young. You know, the song Woodstock. They say, "We are stardust, we are golden, we are billion-year-old carbon," and so forth. It's one of my, I quote it on exams all the time.
It'll be a great song, by the way.
We could invite our youth and adults to partner on this. Now
That's,
that everyone's got a camera and a recorder, could be a fun little community or multinational adventure.
Okay, Leroy, it's your job to send out a click track, or just a guitar track.
No, I'm thinking of involving some of our more professional musicians and the kids. But I'm happy to contribute, but I see a lot of the creativity coming from elsewhere. This has been a fun conversation. I know you've got to leave, Ned.
I do.
Not to remind you, but it's been a great conversation as usual. Any parting comments from anybody?
I have a question for Ned in that when you were talking about the wax worms, when you brought it up, I don't remember, did you say you saw an article or you were discussing it, and where was the beginning of that?
A friend of mine mentioned an article, which then she sent me the link. And to be the honest truth is, I haven't read it except in broad, to get the basic
Okay.
information. But I actually was Googling a little bit to see what I could find. I'll if I find sort of suitable summary links, I'll send them to people.
Thank you. Because I had heard some of it. I had seen some articles previously, so I wasn't sure if that was what you were referencing. Great, thank you.
Yeah, it's the kind of thing that hits the news every once in a while. People get all excited about it, and then they realize, well, that's all very fine, but it takes a few million waxworms a century to chew up a milk bottle or something. Whatever. Yeah. So the fact that it can happen and the rates that can be accomplished may be two different issues. I don't know. I've got to dig into it a little bit. But as I said, I'm going to probably bring it up in my green chemistry class, so I will spend a little time on it.
Cool. Thank you.
John, can you remind us your email? I would just assume you be the recipient if people have ideas for this. HeronPro at...
Yeah, it's heronpro@comcast.net. So it's HERONPRO at comcast.net.
Okay, I just put it in the chat window. If you click chat, you can see it there. If you're willing to receive ideas from people.
Yeah, if you have, words that are associated with the environment and trying to do something to be helpful about it, that would be fine. What I'm going to do is just collect a list of things and then look for it doesn't necessarily have to be something that's a rap beat, but that does seem to be fairly popular these days. But I'll probably look for a couple of different rhythmic formats and then see what can be done chord and melodically over the top of that.
So John, I wrote the COVID prison blues based on Folsom Prison Blues. I just,
So
I'll send you that if you want.
Are you looking to get that out on Facebook or on YouTube? What's your goal, Ned?
Oh, my goal was to make myself laugh. But I actually, I did record it on my iPad.
Well, we'd all like to hear that.
Yeah, right.
That would be the inspiration.
By that, yeah.
When Leroy's band meets again.
Live show next week.
What's that?
The
Live show next week. That's great.
Next week, Wednesday night, we're going to be back at Eagle Monk from 6 to 8. So, Ned, if you'd like to perform it there, we'd give you stage time.
As long as you know the Folsom Prison Blues, if you can, it's pretty simple chords.
We can do that.
I can't play anything.
John, you're welcome to join us on the Cajon
That's
I
next
definitely recommend,
Wednesday.
next
Next
definitely
Wednesday.
recommend this. It's
Okay. All
your
right.
voice band is great.
Well, it's a makeshift band. It's not. It's more of a conglomerate. So anyway, you're all welcome.
What time?
Eagle
You
Monk
have-
from 6 to 8.
Where is that again? I know that you've told me this 5 times, but.
It's on Mount Hope on the west side, out towards LCC West.
It's a
Okay.
great bike ride.
You can't take it directly from this side of Mount Hope, but it kind of weaves through the neighborhood over by Waverly. Anyway, it's been a great conversation. And
Yeah, I gotta go. I gotta turn on my office hours. It's great to see everybody.
I'm going to send
Thank
Cliff's suggestions out to people. Talk to you later.
Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye.